NASCAR driver Bubba Wallace is the only full-time black driver on the circuit, and he is calling for change. Bubba said that he wants to see tracks take down all Confederate flags. He also said there will be a lot of angry people, but it's time for change. And Shannon, I want to start with you because you have been a fan of NASCAR for a while now. So what is your reaction to this?
I agree with it. And anybody that says no, they should not take that flag down doesn't understand the history of the Confederate flag. That flag was for the Confederacy. That the sole reason they wanted to succeed from the Union, Skip, is because they wanted to continue slavery. That's it. That flag was founded in the principle of hatred, bigotry, and racism. Now, if you believe the American flag is supposed to be the home of the free and the brave, and you enjoy freedoms and liberties, if you think the Confederate flag is anything other than that, you're sadly mistaken. Now, Skip, I'm a NASCAR fan. I go way back.
You do.
People might not know this, but before Dale Jr. was 88, Darrell Waltrip drove the 88 car in Gatorade. And he also had 17, he had 11. So I go back to Bobby and Donnie Allison, Cale Yarborough, Harry Gant, Neil Bonnet. I go way back and been following it. Richard Petty with the STP 43 car, Dodge. So I go way back and I understand the origin of NASCAR. It started as they were running Shine. Moonshine. They were bootleggers. And what they needed, Skip, they needed mechanics that could have soup up their cars to be able to outrun the police. But it needed to be able to handle also. So that's how NASCAR kind of got started.
That's true.
It was a Southern sport because they ran Shine in the South. How I know, because I had a great uncle that ran Shine. So I understand what they were doing. Not to the extent like they were doing it, but they ran Shine for, a couple of little friends here and there, Skip, and they sold it out the back, pints at a time. Skip, I don't get it. I never understood that. And they're talking about it's a sense of pride. Oh, you proud to be racist? You proud to be a bigot? Because that's what the Confederacy was. Everybody knows that. It was founded on, I want to own slaves. I want to oppress black people, period. It was not about we're brave, we're going to find this land and we want everybody to have. No, you didn't. You wanted black people to be held here. You wanted them to work for you forever and ever. So that's what the Confederate flag is about. It's about nothing else. When people say it's a sense of pride, okay, I understand what your pride is now. So what are you proud about? I just want to, when they say that, I said, so what are you proud about? Because you do understand what it was founded on. You know why they wanted to succeed. So I don't get it, Skip. So this is a no-brainer. And then Brent Keselowski, he's still I don't want to tell anybody what they should do. Why not? It's the right thing. You know what the Confederate flag is. Everybody know what the Confederacy was. There was nothing good. And I get it, well, that's a part of it. Yeah, it's a part of history. It's a part of history that needs to be told. But if you think that flag was good, it was maybe for you. Because guess what? You didn't have to bear the burden of what that flag represented. So, of course, it was good for you. It's kind of, Skip, like I told you about you and seafood. You might love seafood, but I have an allergic reaction to seafood, so it's not good for me. Black people have an allergic reaction to the Confederate flag, period. End of discussion.
So I've always been curious about this. What originally attracted you to an all-white sport that originally was sort of founded by good old boy Southern drivers, right? They were all cut from that sort of cloth.
Well,
right?
The thing was, Skip, is that we only got 3 channels, on, off, and don't mess with me. So it came on one of the channels that we could actually get. And me, my brother and sister, Skip, every February, we would always sit around and watch the Daytona 500. Now, Cale Yarborough was our favorite driver. And I remember, I think it was Cale and Bobby got into it. I think it might have been 79. And either Darrell Waltrip or Richard Petty, I can't remember, Skip, ended up winning the race. So we've always watched it. I remember going to Daytona, Black College Weekend, and I would drive by Daytona because I always wanted to see it. I watched it on television, Skip, but to see how massive it is and to see that embankment, Skip, it's not a regular highway. That embankment is you're driving almost upside down so you don't fly off the track because you're generating so much speed. And I remember when they went to the restrictor plate because the cars were getting faster and faster. And they just started taking off. They were going up with the 220. That's when they put the restrictor plates on these cars. But Skip, Yes, I've always been fascinated with cars. My uncle had an uncle that used to take us to drag racing down in Savannah on Ogeechee Road.
Yep.
So we've always, and everybody, Skip, you had a car, you was it. Growing up as a kid, you know, the Firebird, the Trans Am, if you had a car, and if you had a car that could run, man, you was the lick in Glenville.
Okay, here's my history with that Confederate flag. I grew up in Oklahoma City. The state of Oklahoma was not really a Civil War state. It's really not a southern state. It's more of a southwestern state.
Right.
It's more like a wannabe Texas kind of a state.
Right.
It just has a different sort of vibe. In high school, the Confederate flag, some kids had them on cars. It didn't mean anything about the Confederacy or what it really stood for in the South. It was a sign of rebellion. It was... it's like Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones, you know, like you're against the grain.
But Skip, but you're right. But the South was rebelling against the North because they wanted to keep the slaves.
Okay, I got it. Okay, so then I win a scholarship, and all of a sudden I uproot and go away to Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
And now my eyes get open because now I am in the deep, maybe it's not the deepest South, but it's pretty deep in Nashville.
Yes.
And I'm seeing Confederate flag signs, and I'm hearing a different vibe and what that stands for. And I'm going to school with some kids from rural Tennessee, and they had a lot of Southern pride, the South shall rise again kind of pride. Some of it was just an SEC sort of a spirit, and some of it was born of racism. And the South shall rise again meant also that we shall prevail again, and we'll go back to slavery times. And again, I minored in history, and everything that I read about, I'm a Civil War buff. It was about slavery. It also, many of the historians think it was even more about economics, but the economics were built on free labor, right? Okay.
Yes.
So they were seceding because of economic. It's almost like the American Revolution. It's about taxation without representation, but South Carolina says we can make a lot more money without your laws on top of us.
Correct.
But again, their whole economy is based on, we have free labor here, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I get that. So as I grew up through college and got out of college, the more I looked at that flag, the worse it got. And it's shocking to me that we came all the way to 2020 before a NASCAR driver felt emboldened enough to stand up, he being the only African-American driver, and say, you know what, this is just wrong, it's enough. Well, that's why this is such a great moment in time that we're in. And I've compared it a little bit to the Me Too movement, where all of a sudden every door got swung open, and everybody felt empowered enough to walk through that door on any level of American society and say, you know what, that's wrong. And I applaud Bubba Wallace because it's just wrong. It stands for all the wrong things. And I love NASCAR, and I've loved NASCAR since I was a kid also. I love the Indy 500 even more than I love NASCAR because it was just an annual rite of summer. You know, it's just you listen to it on the radio. So that was different than NASCAR to me. But now we get to a moment in 2020, and I love that it's sort of 2020 hindsight, where everybody can look back and say, what were we thinking? And it's time where the world is suddenly, eyes are open and ears are open to, oh, yeah, what were we thinking? And it took what I keep calling the equivalent, the modern day equivalent of a public lynching in Minneapolis. That's what it looked like to me, knee on neck on concrete, for the world to finally wake up and say, that is so wrong. Well, then wait a second. Now the door's flung wide open. Yeah, that's wrong too. And that's wrong, and that's wrong, and that's wrong.
And think about, Skip, the Confederate flag, you hear the military say, now the Confederate flag will no longer swing below the American flag. Let that sink in for a second, Skip. What the Confederate flag represents, why the Confederacy was founded. It hung in prominence in American military. Skip, they said, people keep saying George Floyd was a wake-up call. And I heard someone says, no, he wasn't a wake-up call. That alarm been ringing. America just kept hitting snooze.
I agree. I agree with that.
So that's what is happening.
It took the most vile, evil video I've ever seen to get completely woke, where everybody's now receptive to what's happening.
I mean, but I don't understand, Skip, how something can be founded. Okay, this is our symbol of what we stand for. And people they try to dance all around it. No, it's a sense of pride. Okay, what that flag stood for, what it was supposed to be a symbol of is racism, is hatred, is bigotry. There's no way around it. You wanted to succeed from the Union because you wanted to keep the institution of slavery going. It's as simple as that. Your economic base was based on slavery. You did nothing else.
Right. Agreed.
And it was free. Skip, just imagine how much money I could pay if I had somebody that just do everything for me and I have to pay them nothing.
Yeah.
For 200 years.
Oh, I got it.
Of course I would want to keep that. Skip, of course I would want to keep that going. Why wouldn't I?
So I want the younger viewers out there to just get this through their skulls. This country went to war with itself over this. Hundreds of thousands of men died.
Yes.
American men killed American men over this.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about here. Some of the bloodiest battles, Gettysburg, Antietam. It's just like, what happened?
Yeah.
That's why I'm so fascinated with it. That really happened on American soil? Yes, it did. And God forbid if it ever happens again.
Yeah. And that's you're right, Skip.
Yeah.
We went to war with us.
Yes. Yeah.
Because one side's like, you know what? Nah, this ain't. I mean, they went all the way, but the South's like, nah, we about to go this alone. Y'all got all these morals. Y'all want to tax us, and y'all want to talk about slavery. No, we're not doing that. So we're gonna fight you.
Right, and it wasn't just a skirmish. This went on from 1861 to 1865 for 4 years. It went on all over the South, from Vicksburg to Gettysburg. Right.
Yep.
Whew.
Yep. And
it's
luckily we had some.